Hello, everybody, and welcome to Guildmaster Gaming. Today, we are with director Kirk Howle and his film, The Crystal Galaxy Enforcers. This is
Right.
an animated film that I've had a chance to watch, and it's going to be part of the Film Quest Film Festival that I work with. So, welcome, Kirk. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your movie.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. I'm a animator. I've been animating my own films for like independent films for a long time since I was a little kid, playing with my Apple IIe computer my family had, which will date when I was a child in the 80s. But yeah, I'm just sort of kind of getting my feet wet in the film festival circuit now. I'm kind of new to it, so I'm really excited to be checking out all these fests and seeing out what the action is. And my film Crystal Galaxy Enforcers is about a little alien named Madnar, and he flies around in a crystal spaceship, which is also alive, and it's also kind of his friend. And they in this episode they run into an old nemesis of Madnar's, and they get into a sort of a little argument that escalates, and things kind of go wrong from there. And you see what the aftermath of all that is. And basically, it's all my whole thing is I just want to make people laugh, and I want to have fun with it, and hopefully provide an entertaining time for everybody.
And we'll kind of premise it there for if people are looking at it. This is not strictly for kids.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, I make animations that look like they're for kids, but they're really for adults.
Yeah. Now you actually struck me with a couple of questions to start off with from what you said there. So you said this is your first kind of getting into the film festival circuit. So is this like your first launch or early in your career of getting out there with something?
I mean, I've been in other fests, but it was when I was in college, and then like shortly after college when I was just putting my student films around.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think those fests even exist anymore, the ones that I was in back then. So I wasn't as proactive about really reaching out to fests and sending things, and back then I didn't have the money. Like it can be expensive submitting films to festivals if you don't get in on the early bird deadline. So yeah, now I've been working for 20 years and saving up some money so I can start to start to expand my hobby into more of a passion thing, more of a maybe make it more than just a hobby.
Okay. And then you mentioned the other thing you said in this episode. That leads me to believe that you've actually created a series of
Yeah, I my goal is to do 6 episodes. This one is episode one,
okay.
and I have sort of a rough idea where I want it to go and what I want the ultimate ending to be. And I've just written episode two, so I'm gonna start working on that one, getting the voices recorded and animating that one pretty soon. And then in episode three, I have a vague idea what I want to do, and then it'll go on from there.
Okay.
So hopefully I can start churning these out a little faster than I did. This first one took me 8 years to do, which is I'm kind of embarrassed that it took me that long. But that's from the moment I thought of it, the basic concept, to coming up with the characters, deciding what everything was going to look like. So it was a long process to get to where it is now. Now that I've got all these ideas and there kind of is a style and there's a tone, I can work with that and hopefully much faster create the next several episodes.
It always
That's my
seems like the first one for a lot of people is the hardest one to get going with.
Yeah, it's also you're sort of diving into the unknown. You don't know if it's going to be any good. Like if this one, if I went to the fests that I've been to so far and it didn't wasn't receiving laughs, I would be like, oh, maybe I should not do the next few episodes if it's not receiving the right reaction. But luckily, it's
Yep.
been getting a lot of laughs. Like surprisingly, at different spots, depending where it's showing, different crowds have different reactions. So it's been a really rewarding experience to see that.
That's good. So what was your inspiration for Christie, yeah, Crystal Galaxy Enforcers?
Christie Galaxy Enforcers. That'd be a good drag queen name. Please welcome to the stage, Christie Galaxy Enforcers. Maybe, but yeah, for me, it was. I just wanted to do something really bright and colorful, and outer space seemed like a great setting because you can have anything happen, any alien worlds you want to go to. So where did the character came from? The first thing I thought of, I think the first thing I thought of was the name of the sort of bad guy from this episode, which I don't want to say because it's kind of a joke within the thing. So I'll let the
Mhm.
audience just see that when they do. But I just thought of his name and how stupid it was, and I think I've got to make a character based on that. But I had no idea what it was going to be. So from there, I kind of just built on that and yeah, coming up with what Modnar looks like. took me a while. I knew I wanted him to just be like a head with arms and legs, but I didn't know how human I wanted him to be or what his skin color was going to be or anything like that. And I settled on blue because it seemed alien enough. Actually, the blue skin color was probably largely influenced by it's one of my favorite filmmakers, Rene Laloux, I think it is, French animator. So he did a film called Fantastic Planet, in which the sort of alien characters are these humanoid creatures with blue skin, and I kind of think that was in my brain somehow, like as a blueprint for Modnar.
Okay, so you tagged that animator is when you're in. Okay, so kind of going on yourself, going back, you mentioned like his animation work, but what was the drive that got you to want to be a filmmaker then?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, since I was in high school, or not even before that, sixth grade, with some of my friends, like my dad was one of the early adopters of like buying a video camera. So back when like you had to have the camera attached to literally a like 20-pound VCR that was like in a sack around your waist, and like he would lug this thing around. It was like 40 or 50 pounds of video equipment, and he would videotape our families and stuff. And then from there, my older brothers actually started making their own movies. They made some like horror movies that were kind of based on Friday the 13th, that had like people's hands getting chopped off and stuff, and like cheap rubber hands with like red rubber bands falling out of them and stuff like that for the effects. So I think probably influenced by my older brothers doing that stuff, I was like, I want to make movies too. So my friends and I got together and made some really not good live action videos. But then from there, yeah, we had some animation software for our Apple computer, and I got hooked on that, just making weird little like pixel graphic kind of animations. And from there, when I went to college, I was gonna go for journalism, and my friend Wally Chung, he's kind of known in the fest circuit. We were roommates, and he was talking to like the film one of the film instructors, and he brought a tape of stuff that he and I had made, and the instructor was like, well, why isn't this guy also in the film program? So I was like, oh, all right, maybe I'll try that. It seemed more fun than journalism. I think I just saw, is that a cat walking around?
Yeah, one of our cats decided to join us.
Oh, beautiful.
This is Phantom.
Ah, nice to meet you, Phantom.
I usually leave the door open because if I close it, he'll sit out there and whine.
uh,
But he usually doesn't come in. He usually lays out there. Um,
yeah, I've
okay,
got
so
three cats all outside the door. Luckily my wife is entertaining them. Wife and co-producer Cindy.
ah, partner in crime.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got into the film stuff and kind of your friend got it sounds like really got you into it. And it kind of brought your animation along all together at the same time. Just that's what it sounds like. I mean, it just all came together for you there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was doing different kinds of animation too. I was doing stop motion for a while. I was a big fan of the Brothers Quay and other similar sort of like more creepier kind of animators. And somehow that morphed into me just doing this really cartoony, like happy looking style. I just gravitated towards that instead.
Okay, so you already talked a little bit about the future of here for Modnar and his series of 6 episodes. Do you have other projects that you're working on that we can kind of look forward to and see what's
I've got some that I have in mind. Some I've been developing for a while, and other ones that are like newer ideas, but none that I'm actively working on. I've kind of got those ones set aside until until I finish this series or I get tired of it and need a break. Then I
Mhm.
might. But there's one I have that's a more serious kind of idea, not really comedic. That would be a darker tone, possibly even animated in black and white, just to give it more of a grim look to it. But yeah, I don't want to say too much. Sorry about my phone making noise over here. I don't want to say too much about that one yet because it's still really early in development, and I don't want to jinx it.
I understand,
That
understand.
would be more of like a sort of sword and sorcery kind of thing taking
Ah,
place in like pre-medieval times or something like that.
so kind of keeping in the realm of the science fiction and fantasy genre and
Yeah, exactly. That
okay.
stuff's always the most fun to me. It's probably also because I grew up watching shows like Dungeons and Dragons, He-Man, Thundercats, all those shows that had almost like a weird supernatural element to a lot of what was in them, while also being
Mhm.
science fiction.
That makes sense. Sorry, this guy is rubbing into me. He all of a sudden wants serious attention. Uh, this we're I'll tell people we had struggles getting this on because I screwed up the time frame of when we were going to do this. And then to have this, it's just like one point of problem right after another as we're trying to talk with you here, Kirk.
That's right. It's live. It's dangerous that way. We're taking a big risk. Feral
Okay.
animals walking about and
Dog sleeping with cats.
right.
Okay. So we got some other projects that you're working on, and it sounds like you're kind of midway in your run, festival run with
Yeah. I submitted to. Let me see. I wrote this down because I just counted the other day. Where did I put that? Sorry, I've got this page of info I thought would be quick reference here. Okay, here it is. So I've submitted to 94 fests so far, and I've been accepted to 21, which I think is a pretty good
yeah,
percentage.
hitting right around 25% there.
Yeah, so I was kind of surprised. I didn't expect that big of a reaction. So I'm glad that it's being embraced by some of the festivals.
Yeah.
And I've
So
noticed a
that's
lot of the kind of the smaller, weirder ones really like it a lot, like the ones that go for like weirder stuff. So that's great. I love that. That's kind of my target audience.
yeah, we Film Quest usually gets some pretty oddball stuff there.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. I've seen some of the posters and things look totally out there, which is great.
yeah, but at the same point, I will say this because I've worked with Film Quest as a reviewer and doing different things. Congratulations on getting in because there was over 1,800 submissions this year.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah, I
it's
mean, people I've talked to have said it's one of the best fests, like one that people really are clamoring to get into. So, yeah, good for you guys to have such a great festival in your area, and the people running it, I'm sure, are doing a great job. We get email updates like every week on what's going
Mhm.
on and what's expected. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, the nice thing about when I've worked with them, because I'm not actually involved with the running of it. I'm kind of on the sideline here. But Jonathan and Jana are very much their film people. So they understand what they would like to see and kind of go from it from that perspective. So it's
Nice.
really kind of fun. So, but getting back to you. So we were talking about those are like projects you got coming up. You've got this one running along. You're kind of in the midstream of it, with all this. You've got 6 episodes. So what are you planning on doing with this after it's completed, after it's finished its run?
That's a good question. I mean, I would like to get a website up and running at some point. Right at the moment, it's kind of pointless because festivals don't want your film out there while it's making the fest circuit. So I can't really
Uh-huh.
put it anywhere public yet. But I would eventually like to get a website that's got the episodes there. Try to get some publicity for it. Try to get people interested in it. Um, one thing I have been doing is at festivals, I've got these sticker sheets printed with all the characters on them. So I go around and give these out. People love these. So, good marketing tool, hopefully. So, what I'd like to do is, garner as much interest for the show as I can. And I don't know what I'll do with it from there because I'm conflicted on the idea of trying to sell it to like a media company or something like that. Because I know once that happens, everything about it will be kind of changed and toned down. And I don't know. That's what I'm worried about. I just want to create pure expression of what's in my brain, and not have any meddling with it, I guess.
So one question I have along those lines, have you thought about taking and creating your own web series as you move forward then? And
Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know how quickly I could update the series. I'd have to maybe if I got like a team or something working with me, that might be one thing I'll look into in the future. Right now, because right now it's all me doing it pretty much. I do have
yeah,
a few people, obviously the voice actors are friends of mine who have helped me out with that, and another friend of mine, Matt Lux, does the background artwork for the inside of the Crystal Mistress. So
okay.
he drew all the line work for that. So I've definitely got help from friends, but there's no one that currently I'm like paying to to help me out. That would so I have to figure that out. I'm not the best with math, so
Okay.
it's a tricky part.
So you've already mentioned some of the inspiration that got you into animation and being a filmmaker was uh, the television shows that you grew up with, but kind of taking it to a different level, turning into a filmmaking perspective. What were some of the films that you kind of grew up that kind of impacted you that said, think I might want to do that?
Oh wow. I think early on what things I saw. I mean, there were some for some reason my brain goes right to the disturbing stuff I saw when I was a kid, like Watership Down, Plague Dogs. These animated films, they weren't really for kids either, but they're like imprinted on my brain. Um,
A Watership Down is actually, a very good film. So
oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's excellent. It's depressing and sad, but really moving and beautiful. So yeah, and then besides that, like I've always one of my all time favorite movies has always been RoboCop.
Okay.
So there's probably the science fiction element again. And then lately, I don't know. I'm getting into more into any movie that comes out that can surprise me and not necessarily be bound to any specific genre, but that does things I'm not expecting. Like I recently just saw, what is that film called? Oh, I saw the TV Glow. I don't know if
Oh,
you've seen that one yet, but
I haven't seen it yet, but I've had several people recommend it to me. My workload has been like over here going, okay.
yeah,
I I have an insider that was like, you really need to watch the TV. Like, okay.
yeah, yeah. It's good and it's more disturbing, like on a psychological level, than I thought it was going to be going into it.
Uh-huh.
So I was really surprised by that. But it definitely sticks with you. So that I know that filmmaker's got a couple other films out. I don't remember their name, but the
Yeah.
style of it was really, really interesting. The editing was really cool. And just kind of somehow the way they told the story just like creeps into your psyche, and it's hard to let go of. So I like films that do that.
Things that kind of twist you up a little bit there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, kind of going back, that's what you've done, and here's what you're working on now. So, if you had the chance to work on a dream project, anything that you wanted to do, Kirk, what would be your dream project to work on?
Uh, I mean, I think I'm kind of working on it now. Just if I could do it faster, that would be great. But I mean, I would love to do something. I have one idea that is kind of the closest thing I can say it's like is like what was that? What was that cartoon series? Was it Black Star with Ookla the Mock and no, that wasn't Black Star. That was it was a Hanna Barbera cartoon. Anyway, it would be something basically that it would be again a series, and it would be about like a future world where all technology has kind of died down and people need to go back to kind of basics, and it's sword fighting and monsters and demons and stuff like that. I would love to create something like that where you could just let your imagination go crazy, um, and just build your own world kind of from the ground up.
Kind of go into a post-apocalyptic type setting.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a couple of them back there like that. I know Thundar the Barbarian was one of those that people
that
didn't
that's
realize.
the one I'm. Yeah, that's what I was trying to
That
think of.
okay.
So I would like to do something like that, but with a much more cartoony style.
Okay. So
Like
there's a lot of
cartoony, I
things.
mean like cute looking kind of characters, kind of like Adventure Time, that kind of thing.
Okay. A little
Which,
bit
when I think about it, is
uh,
kind of in a post-apocalyptic world already. But so I guess my dream job would be just to make Adventure Time. I wish I was the guy who created Adventure Time.
there you go. That works. So, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and and you've got a lot of things going on, working on your series and that. But what do you like to do to kind of unwind and step away from it?
um, what do I do to unwind? Well, exercise. I mean, I'm 47 years old now, so I'm finding I need to keep in shape to keep my body functioning properly. so, um, so I'm doing that a few times a week. What else? I mean, alcohol helps me relax. Um, Sometimes video games. And honestly, like when the weather was nicer, I'm lucky enough. My wife and I were able to have a deck built. We live on the second floor of a condo building, and we have a roof that extends out back. So we had a deck built out there
Ah,
that in during summer and fall, like if weather is nice, I'd like to just go out there at night and just sit and listen to the sounds of the breeze and the trees and stuff, and just relax and let my mind wander that way. That's like a great way to kind of get everything to just in my brain to kind of quiet down.
okay. We did talk that you have done some gaming, and you
Oh
kind of
yeah.
went and saw that I'm kind of involved in that way. Um, Now you mentioned to me you've played some D&D and some Cthulhu. So it sounds like you kind of like to go into the same areas of where you like to animate as you like
I
to
guess
go
so.
into that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, anything that uses like magic and violence is a fun time. Yeah, D&D. I've always been fascinated with Dungeons and Dragons since I was a little kid. My older brothers, again, they would collect those little die-cast like metal figures. If you remember those at that time, they're like weighty and oh, you
Yeah,
probably got some.
the actual lead figures. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got piles here and others, and like so I got like there's a dwarf.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Awesome. I love those original like metal because now you get them and they're like 3D printed plastic or something,
Yep.
and they just don't have that heft to them that the old figures had. Even though they were kind of more crudely sculpted, there's something about them that really just like I don't know, got my imagination firing. So
And they
yeah,
could be used
my
as a weapon in themselves.
right, exactly. But yeah, I do enjoy. I've had a lot of fun with Call of Cthulhu running those games. I have a group of three guys I play that with on occasion, and it's fun for me to just make up because I've read a lot of H.P. Lovecraft, so I kind of base some of the ideas on his stories, on his types of creatures and things, and then just do a homebrew like adventure in my mind, set it in a setting, and come up with what their obstacles are going to be. And I think that's a lot of fun. And it's especially fun when they do something completely unexpected that throws my entire plan for the adventure off, and then I've got to like figure out another way for them to reach whatever thing they have to reach. So it's fun doing that. It's like what was it? Storytelling. It's like collaborative storytelling.
Yeah, I
But
actually work with you when we talk about it. It's I think a better way to describe it, it's collaborative story creation.
yeah, there you go.
Because it's like you said, you can kind of give them out there, and then all of a sudden they take off in a different direction. It's like, okay, now we're going improv.
Yeah.
Because everything you had planned is like, okay, we're going to move that to the next city.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's I
And
understand what you're saying there. It can be quite daunting when you kind of the differences. And that kind of brings up kind of one of the things we're talking about. You actually write your adventures that you run.
mhm.
And so that's another thing that I found that is very different from like creating books or creating story for movies. And that is the difference in control of your writing style that you have to do. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
seen that is, you can control the setting, you can kind of control the encounter a little bit, but you have no control over the characters.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, times where I've wanted them to do specific things and they flat out refuse. I'm like, oh, well, that kind of throws off the angle I was going for. um, so yeah, definitely. And I mean, I try to think of it like I do try to imagine what they might do and come up with a few branches of where could this
Mhm.
go if they don't do this, what'll that lead to, and that's fun, kind of almost creating like a choose your own adventure kind of setup where I've got like a little I like draw like a little tree of like what actions might lead to other actions, and it kind of the roots kind of spread out. But if they don't end up taking any of those routes, then I'm just going like you said improv, and depending on how tired my brain is, it might not be the best improv.
I actually have some writer friends that will not run a game because that they have such a hard time not being able to control the other characters.
Oh wow, okay, yeah,
It's like, no, you gotta, no, it's our story, not.
yeah.
So no, that's a lot of fun. I'm kind of glad to hear it. So, is there any other games that you like to kind of kick into, or is it just basically the horror and the fantasy realms?
Those are the main ones I've been involved in. I did play one game one of my friends ran. I'm trying to think. Oh, Feng Shui. Have you heard about that one?
I've
It's
heard the
based, I
name.
think,
Yep.
it's sort of like based on what was the cyber one, cyber something.
There was Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it was more of like a cyberpunk thing, but it was also based on movie cliches. So the characters you created were kind of based on like the action hero or the dirty cop or the like
Yep.
I don't know science experiment or something like that. So it was more about like incorporating movie tropes into the action. So that was a pretty fun
Okay.
one.
Yeah, there's some really different ones out there. So it's I just always kind of interested when we people say that they play games because I've been known to play a few. Uh, so we've talked about what you do for your fun, what your dream project would be, kind of what you're looking forward to, and where you're from and everything. So I mean, it's I think we've kind of covered pretty much everything along those basic lines. So we're kind of drawing to the end. It's been about a half an hour we've been talking now.
Oh
Uh,
wow, flew by.
Yeah. So what I was going to do is I got another question to kind of ask, but I'll give you a chance to think about if you want to do like a final call out or anything you'd like to state afterwards. But the usually what I like to ask people, and for you, it's kind of twofold because I know some people that are into animation and artwork and artists like that, and also some that are into the film industry doing different things. So if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I want to make a film," and especially if they wanted to do animation, what advice would you give them?
With animation, I'd say find and download whatever freeware software you want to use, because you can do just as much with the good free program than you can with buying like everything. Everything now is on a subscription service. So if you want to do Adobe Animate, I forget what it's up to, like $30 a month or something at this point. If you're using that for years, you're gonna be paying a lot of money by the end of things. So my thing is be find a way to save money as much as possible because there will be expenses eventually, and the more you can save creating your vision, the more you'll have to kind of promote it later.
Okay.
And one great just to plug this animation program I'm using right now, it's the same software that Ghibli Studio uses. It's called OpenTunes, and you
Okay.
can just go online and download it for free for any OS that you're on. So I'm on a really old. My OS is like 7 or 8 years old. But I was able to find an older version online and just download that and use it, and it works great.
That's good to know that
Yeah,
there's that type of stuff, and especially if it's a major player already out there using it. Um,
yeah.
so, kind of now we're kind of finished up here with this, but where you said you don't have a website, but where, if people want to follow your work and find out more about what you got coming up, where might they be able to find you on the internet?
Oh, you know what? That's the one piece of information I did not make easy to find for myself. So let me look that up real quick. You can find me on my Instagram, which is, I always forget how Instagram works, if it's name first or okay. So
It's
Instagram.com/Kirk Howle, and that's spelled KirkHowle, and that's where I'm putting all my stuff about Crystal Galaxy Enforcers and other weird, funny tidbits about my life if you want to see what I'm up to. But yeah, that's where most of the promotion of my film I'm doing at the moment. And eventually, when I do get a website, I'll let people know.
okay. So find you on Instagram. So now we kind of got to that point. Is there anything else that you would like to kind of just bring up and share with everybody or call out to anybody?
Well, I just want to mention the people who were involved in my film who helped me out by name, just to give them a shout out. So Raleigh Hatch, Abby Denson, Matthew Lux, Douglas Fry, Wally Chung, and my wife Cindy. I couldn't have made this without them, and they were all key people in kind of affecting what the final product of this film was. So I'm going to work with all them all again in the future on the sequels.
All right. So just finally, are you going to have a chance to make it out to Film Quest this year?
I unfortunately am not. I've got something else going on at that time, but I'm gonna check out like the online stuff and follow whose films are doing well.
All
So
right.
hopefully in the future, if I get in again, I do want to try to make it there next time.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that and kind of hopefully you do because it's that I'll tell people I'll be writing up a review of this. It's an interesting little short segment. Like Kirk mentioned, is can't really say a lot because yeah, it plays off itself and you have to kind of just see it and see what happens. It's like, okay. A
That's
little
the
bit of
reaction I want.
it's a little bit of self-exploration about just how we react to things. It's a lot of fun that way. So I think that's the way to kind of look at it. So if you like what we're doing here, please like the video, share it out to people, and if you'd like to subscribe, because that just helps us to kind of continue on doing more of this. So again, Kirk, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. This has been a really fun talk.
Okay, talk to everybody soon.